Okay, I'm positioned okay. We're live. It's Brad Hutchings, Kevin Ferron, if we go with the French pronunciation, Lu Rierra. Let me show you our pretty faces here because we're here. Can I do it that way? Yes, I can. I'm not going to tell you which was the horse, the sheep, and the cow. Someone already did that for us. Guys, this is our stand-up meeting for Thursday. What's going on, Kevin? What's going on in your life?
I missed which cow I was. That was the only reason I really joined, actually, to figure that out. I missed the comment. Darn.
Let me show you here. Well, we got our picture for this week. Someone wants us to be the farm animal podcast, but he's or the Animal Farm podcast or whatever it was. So I had Grok draw this for me, but I'm silly with pictures, and now that I have Grok to draw pictures for me, I don't have to Photoshop everything anymore. I'm going to be very silly on this podcast. I'm sure somebody will make a dumb comment today, and I'll have the picture for the next one. So that's always my goal. Let me bring us back up here.
I'm just really disappointed that you would take away an artist's job to produce that image.
All right, it took away my job to produce that image. That's what I did. Kevin, I like to start these stand-ups with just what's going on in your life, man. What'd you do that was fun? You get a minute. What's going on?
Let's see. So this summer has been radical for me as far as I've been going to 10 or 15 concerts a month.
Yes.
Like, it's been crazy, and it's been a lot of fun. I will say that there is a bit of a recency bias, but the one show that I just was going to for a throwback for a 90s band was the Toadies. And I was thinking it's at a small venue here in Detroit, and I was kind of thinking, it'll just be fun to go down there, and I'll get there. I got there a little bit late, before they got on. But anyway, this place was packed. It was jam packed, and then Local H opened for them, and they brought out Vinny from Sponge to sing "Bound to the Floor." So, the night just blew me away. Like, I think it was kind of going in with just the expectations it'd be a show. And it ended up being one of the most fun concerts I've been to all summer, which is saying quite a bit. Because like I said, I think my number's at 50 since March.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got to see, thanks to Cohesity. Thank you very much, Cohesity. Many years ago, I got to see Snoop Dogg in a small venue, and ended up with right behind the stage was where I was standing. And the big surprise to me was, like, live performers today absolutely rock. This has never been like Snoop Dogg rocked. I mean, that was as good as seeing Guns N' Roses or Metallica, like circa 1992, right? If they were in the same concert and Axl didn't just throw down the mic and walk out and there was a riot or something, right? It was as good as they were as good a musicians as that. I mean, the funniest thing was watching Snoop Dogg read his lines from his teleprompter. That was funny to watch.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to say, with the amount of weed that the guy smoked, how did he remember all those lyrics? But
he reads them. Yeah. He reads them, and the teleprompter scrolls up and back when he gets to, like, there's a teleprompter guy who knows I got ahead of him. Anyway. I mean, but yeah, they totally rock. So it's cool watching you go to all these concerts and knowing you're not going to a bad concert. Like, they do not have live performers that suck anymore. Nobody's doing that if they suck.
I think that's generally cool. Although I will say that I don't get to really know a band unless I see them live, because it isn't the studio recordings that end up telling you whether or not these guys can do it. And it's an energy thing. I don't know exactly how to describe it, and I'm not a critic. I try to look at all of these things like, hey, these are people, like, I try to look at them like, hey, these are my friends trying to show me something cool they made, or something that they worked on to, like, produce and try to put out to the world. And it generally is pretty rewarding. So.
Right. Lou, what's up with you, man? What have you been doing?
So I just got back from the gym, actually. That's kind of why I'm wearing this outfit. And I've been working on getting back into shape a little bit over the last 15 years or so. I've kind of let the ball slip on that. I've been more focusing on my career, trying to, become an adult, as they say. But
Ew.
a lot of the things that I should have been doing, I neglected. So I'm trying to get back into that.
Well, definitely don't get out of shape like I did, between ages 40 and 50. I've spent 2 years getting back into, like appropriate for the camera. Now, I don't need the widescreen on the camera anymore. It's kind of good. What have I been doing? Well, today would be my dad's parents' 104th birthday. They were still alive. They were born on the same day. I think they met in high school, dated in high school, got married at 21 or 22, adopted my dad when they were 23. Not only did they share the same birthday, it's my grandfather's joke, they shared the same wedding anniversary too. What a coincidence that was. But I made a cake. I'm going to go over for dinner and cake to my parents' house. They live about 4 miles away now. Hang out with them. I think they would have let the day go by. I mean, they're just, they're concerned with their own things. But I said, no, we're going to have cake. I haven't had cake in a while. So I made a cake. That's kind of what's up. Now in our stand-up meeting, after, like being human and having a human discussion and, establishing rapport, that's important. Kevin, what's your topic today?
Well, I was going to talk briefly about some really heady subjects, but I don't even really know the format here. But I've been working on sort of my perspective of working with LLMs. I've gotten, real deep into writing a lot of software with them, heavy into it. And as a longtime engineer who's been very skeptical of it, I've had a lot of thoughts. So that was going to be sort of, I was going to touch on a couple of those, the sort of emotional toll that some of this takes on me. And, nothing too heavy though.
Do it. Get in.
All right. Well, so just to give some perspective, I'm a systems engineer. Pretty much always have kind of focused on systems. Even when I worked in web early on, I was always kind of like building frameworks, right? Trying to simplify. And in a lot of ways, we were doing sort of the no code template idea, mostly just to make our lives easier, right? Mm-hmm. So this has been a trend. I've been a programmer now for 34 years. When I was 16 was when I was first exposed to real programming. When I was 12 was when I was learning about how to modify hex files and things and try to understand. Anyway, long story short is what I've experienced has been both incredible and incredibly frustrating. And I found a paradox in sort of the value creation and the value diminishment. And I've been trying to sort of put a logical framework in my mind that I can sort of think of this. And I've come to, coming at it from a few different angles. And, I think the value diminishment side of things is the ceiling of what we're capable of doing has not raised. The floor has raised, right? And the only way that you could look at it that the ceiling's been raised is that I can do a lot more in a lot less time. Whether or not that's more valuable or not is another question. But I think that there's been a lot of discussions about quality versus handwritten code. And I can certainly sympathize because I do find a lot of problems with the generated code, even in some of the more advanced frontier models. But I've also come to believe that the quality gap and being right about the quality gap was never a very good survival strategy because that's really just about now and not about the actual situation. Because in the end, the specialties and the skills that it takes to build these things, it's not the deepest ones that matter. It's really only the most visible ones. And that the only people that are measuring how good someone is at this job and that are willing to pay for it are really only measuring it based off of the visible qualities. So that's been a pretty important way for me to think about my own skill set. The skills don't necessarily go away, but they get submerged to where they're below the waterline. And I think that this idea kind of transcends into a lot of different things, but that we ultimately have this problem where when the cost of making something collapses, there's three different forms of value that change. One is the output, the labor, and then, for lack of a better word, sort of like my standing as the person who's capable of doing it. And the only contract that ever, the only piece in a contract that ever really gets negotiated is the labor portion. That's where the prices are at as far as labor to output. Like the personal standing was never really one of them, right? That's just a question of market scarcity. Mm-hmm. So the way that the work becomes worth less is that the market pays less for it, and that's really that's really ultimately all that it comes down to. And it's like the threat isn't that like I get worse or less valuable. It's that being better stopped being visible or legible from the side of the table that actually pays. So it's just a bunch of interesting, points and thoughts. And what does that mean for me? I think a lot of the things that I found me making arguments that make this different for me has been a lot of cope. The reality is this idea that I have some special insight, or I have the taste or the power to drive this, is actually a form of me coping with the reality that I am like one of the scribes that used to draw, Bible verses on vellum, and there is like a precedent around trying to defend the scribe's skill because it was an intense skill to have. But in the end, you couldn't compete with the printing press, even though the scribes were right about a lot of the reasons that writing on vellum and spending a whole lot of time crafting these things had value.
So I would say 100% what you said. I think there's about 10% that I think is missing from your narrative. And I think what's missing from your narrative is the context of the code that you're writing. And for what you described as, you're maybe I got this wrong and maybe you didn't describe it this way, but like from what I know, you're more of a systems integrator than, let's say, an operating system or key application designer. Okay.
Well, I for two things. One is I do actually work on an operating system. Like we write an operating system. So that's one correction. But the other one is I missed way more than 10%. Like there's a whole lot more to all of this. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say my experience from where code has come in, or where AI generated code has come in. I'm not going to do agents because agents are a disaster. The human will not get in the middle where they need to get. And so I'm not going to touch those. I already lost a file share from it. I joke about it. It was a traumatic experience. Not going to happen again. However, AI generated code. I have had people come to me with my own open source project, the Mojo server, with AI generated code. Oh, I fixed this for you. Hey, thanks. Can you tell me how it works? No. Like I had people from a prominent company you would know if I told you, who came to me and said, yes, we want to do this to this here. I wrote the code with whatever. It was before these things. I think it was with Codex. I think it was before everybody was doing this agent coding stuff. Just take the code and put it in your product. I'm like, absolutely not. I don't know what it does. You can't explain to me what it does or why it works. We can't do this. Somebody has to understand this because I got to support it at some point. And yeah, I mean, that's not going to work. I've seen it with the project my thing is dependent on Llama CPP. People coming in with things that solve problems that they did with AI agent, and it didn't meet the coding standards, and the guy couldn't explain what it actually did, and they had to reject it. And we're really struggling right now with like, how can we accept this stuff on sort of a conditional way that we recognize it's going to have some problems because nobody understands it. Like, we're really trying to accommodate it, and we haven't found a way. And that's
no, and I tend to agree. I think that the amount of slop makes the review process unbearable. You hear about this in almost every industry, not just software engineering, but you look at the recruiting systems and they're overcome with slop. And what it does is the signal to noise ratio becomes not just hard, just impossible. And so a lot of the genius around this is like, oh, well, we'll use AI since it's so much data. But the problem is like the circular logic is failing because, and we see it with security as well. People are trying to use AI to fix the glaring, gaping security flaws that AI generated code is producing. So yeah, these are real issues. However, they don't change the fact that, to be totally honest, like, I'm not writing much code. I haven't written much code in 9 to 10 months. I mean, I'm reading a lot. I read a lot of code. We reject a lot of code. We do a lot of code reviews. But we are not, I don't know anybody at the edge of this stuff that's actually doing a lot of like handwritten code anymore.
So I will tell you, I used a local LLM, Quen 359B, to write me a sample of the chat UI that I recently replaced in Mojo Server. I replaced Llama CPP's bloated, ridiculous chat thing that had too many options, was unapproachable. Oh yeah, and it was broken too. And this is why I ended up replacing it with something simple that you didn't have a lot of options. You just go and chat with it. You just do that. And to do that, first thing I did is I had that thing write me a HTML, JavaScript, CSS for a very simple chat system. It did it. I copied much of the HTML, incorporated into a separate document. I'll incorporate it into the whole web application at some point soon here. JavaScript and CSS, I kind of merged by hand, but I sort of take the DHH approach, or the old DHH approach, before he got bitten by this AI stuff, which was, yeah, use sample code, type it yourself though. Like, type it because this will reinforce, okay, what it's doing, and you'll be forced to be the human in the middle if you have to type. Like, just the discipline of that will force that. And so that's the approach I've taken. And of course, I'm finding that the small models, there's things they get wrong, but they're very capable of all the things that I've needed to do if I have that approach. Is it gonna look? I have a friend who manages at a major tax software company. Okay, and he and I, through another mutual friend, have been doing battle for like a year and a half of whether AI coding is a good idea or bad idea. And you can imagine which side both of us are on. And he's got a huge budget for doing AI on this tax software, and yeah, he spends it, and yeah, they haven't, they still have the tax software. It's still successful. Like, maybe that can work at scale on some of those products. Stuff I work on, it's a little off narrative. It's important to understand how the stuff works.
Yeah, and I think that it is about some boutique core competency code versus are you mass producing code, and the question always is how much risk is involved with this? Like, what are you actually doing? I do think there's a manufacturing analog. I've always kind of steered away from the idea that building software is like building a building. I've always thought of it more like tending a garden. But at the same time, the idea that hand sewing garments is superior to machine stitching them is sort of an irrelevant question if your goal is to sell a lot of clothes.
And I think that's a key point. It's the irrelevant question, right? You have to sew a lot of clothes. You don't have capacity to sew a lot of clothes if you're doing it by hand. Like there's the point right there, Kevin. Lewis.
Yep.
What do you got to say on this?
I would start with my questions, which would be, should we be selling a lot of clothes? That's my view on that, number one. Number two, Kevin said he doesn't write any more code, which I agree. I haven't written that much code either. But how much of that is dependent on all the years before that of writing and typing code so that you don't have to do that at this point, right? I have some students that I teach on Saturday mornings, complete novices, and they struggle to create anything beyond a little demo, right? Because they can ask the LLM for all the stuff that they might imagine, but if they can't actually parse through and read based on the experience of having typed it and written it before, then there's some disconnect there. Then I'll tie it back into my topic, which was the walking. I've been relearning how to walk, which sounds silly, right? Because you're like, it's such a simple activity. Everybody can really walk if you have two legs. But I would posit that everybody doesn't know how to walk. Most people actually don't know how to walk correctly. There's a whole process in the gait cycle, striking and landing with your heel, then going onto the plant, then pushing off with your toe. And after that, you also have to realize how that connects to the knee, and then from the knee into the hip, from the hip into the shoulders, and so on. So the thing that I've been doing is slowing down, where everybody right now is taking, trying to run, sprint, and fly. I've slowed down and I've gone all the way back to learn how to walk. And that's essentially a metaphor for what tech companies should be doing, right? Let's stop trying to speed up and stitch all these things together and sell as much things and clothes and whatever we can, and see what it is that we should be building first, whether if it's required or necessary for the humans that are around us or whatever. And then we can start maybe speeding up and doing things a little quicker.
Yeah, I love your point about learning. I don't know how much of my experience. What I do know is I have this weird, and this is part of the prompt for why I've been, even exploring some of these topics, is the emotional thing for me is I find myself having a weird attachment / detachment to the work that I'm producing. In one way, I'm building systems that I've always wanted to build, but I didn't have the time to do a lot of the glue type work that would require. And a lot of times that was the blocker, which is ultimately that I'm a programmer and lazy by nature. So those are realities. And then the other side of it is, if I do produce something cool, which I have, the reception of it is, oh, well, AI did it. And so in a lot of ways, I can't really win on either side of those because the other argument that I make, and I think it's to your point about the sort of experience that came before all of this, is, well, you have the same access to the frontier models that I do, and why couldn't you build that? And the answer is, well, they could if they had thought of it or they knew how to speak to it. But it's is that really a big enough differentiator for me to start patting myself on the back or not? And I think I'm on a seesaw with a lot of this stuff. A lot of it's sort of my ego, where it's on certain days it's I'm on top of the world and I'm particularly suited in a particular time in history that's going to benefit me greatly. And then on the other side of it is wow, I just spent most of my life with something that is basically now worthless. So which side of the fence I want to sit on with that is, I get a certain amount of perspective in the sense that, thank goodness, my career will be done in the next 10 or 15 years, regardless if that means it's the end of the world or not. I don't have to contemplate some of this, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. 25 years ago, I was programming in a product called Real Basic. and
used it.
Yeah. So I'm big. I've been big on no code for a long time, and simple code and whatever. And the project previous to that, or let's call it the big project previous to that. There's always little projects in the way that go nowhere or whatever else. It's the life of the entrepreneur. The big project before that, I was coding in C++ on Palm OS phone device. I wrote middleware before middleware knew what it was. Talked to an Oracle database, and this is for a company that's perennially, now they're perennially a number 1, 2, or 3 background screening company, pre-employment background screening company. And boss there, he was a good friend of mine, the founder there. He gave me shit. Why are you programming in BASIC, Brad? And I'm like, because it is the right tool for this job. And then, a year ago, I've got tens of thousands of users on Native American reservations writing stories that preserve their culture and improve literacy on the reservation. And I didn't do it with C++. There's a little C++. There's a little assembly language because I need the graphics to work fast, right? I wrote plugins for Real Basic too. But the point being is I use the right tool for the job. And I think that's something we're coming up on with kind of realizing with AI, AI coding, agentic coding, or whatever else. Is this the right tool for this job? This is what we're going to start sorting that out. And I think we're going to start sorting it out in a way that applications like you're writing, Kevin, absolutely. Applications like I'm writing, servers and whatever else, yeah, probably not. It really has to work. Somebody has to know where the bodies are buried. User interfaces, well, we understand how to do that. I mean, at least sample code, and like I said, I've got 40 years of experience of how to deal with things like sample code. Like I said, I like the old DHH's approach to it a lot. Just do the step of typing it, and then you understand it. And you can, where things
I remember a small story in I think it was mid 90s. Well, it's like I was making a ton of money making websites because it was like all of a sudden everybody needed a website, right? And I remember we were doing a demo, and I had to show a login form that I had done, like a fancy login form where people could enter their name and a password, and they would submit it. And I joke, but like, you got to remember, like, server side processing was magic to a lot of people that had done websites prior. And we were writing CGI modules, in the CGI bin in C++. Anyway, long story short is this woman who was, a prominent executive at the company said, well, I was just on such and such site. It might have been Amazon or something. And she said, they already have a login form. Why couldn't we just use theirs? And in one way, it was infuriating. And in another way, that's exactly the way I think about a lot of UI stuff these days. And like, I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's like a lot of this stuff is rote. And, I don't know I haven't gone into too much detail about like the kind of software that I write, but we write a lot of stuff that's not rote, that LLMs don't understand, that couldn't conceptualize. But if we break it down into, hey, which routines and procedures and graphics modules and things like that we know we're going to need, we can do very targeted hits, building things using LLM. So I guess the idea that there's something really special in everybody's code base is the same concept that every company has some super genius engineer that the CEO knows is the real deal, and it's just not really true. Like, those are not real metrics. Those are emotional decisions, Yeah. And so, I would just, as this goes, I think I've fallen a lot less out of individual code, and I think ownership over code has become something that just isn't really somewhere where I'm investing a lot of my ego points. My ego points today mostly come to which rock concerts I go to. That's pretty much
what I think that's a great perspective on that. So in the comments, Sahil Soni, dude, I messed up your name. I'm sure of it. I apologize. Okay. Just, California white guy. I just moved out of California. I'm kind of learning how to pronounce people's names. So don't hold it against me, but you made a great point. And his point was, hey chaps, just a short question. What's the topic ongoing? So I'm going to answer that. And I'm going to tell you how our stand-up meeting got derailed today. And it's okay. This is totally okay. Kevin was invited at the last minute because someone doesn't like to do these on Thursday, and I didn't tell Kevin anything about the format until about 10 minutes before. And I said, hey, we're gonna humanize things first. That's how we're gonna start it off. Tell us what you're doing in life, and then we're gonna talk each about our topics. And you got 4 minutes to present your topic plus discussion. And Kevin didn't hear that part, and it went on for. Well, I think we started at 4 minutes in. We got on for 26 minutes on this topic, which is totally okay, because we're going to have another stand-up meeting on Tuesday, and then we're going to have one the following Thursday, and then we're going to have one on Tuesday, and then we're going to have one on Thursday. And we don't have to resolve everything in the stand-up meeting. And what makes stand-up meetings so stupid, and I know you guys all know this because every time I talk to people about stand-up meetings that they do, we all agree, which is they're dumb. They're performative for the boss. The boss wants to see that we got our head down and we're busy. And that's why we have these meetings twice a day. And that's why sometimes we require people to be on video so we can see if they're stoned or they're drunk or whatever else, because we don't trust our remote workers, even though we're saving $20,000 a year on office space and cubicle space to house them each. It's this control thing, and it's garbage. And this is what's happened to our stand-up meetings. And what we're saying is, yeah, we can have a format. And you know what? If it's an interesting conversation and there's enough feedback, or maybe it's traffic noise. I don't know, Lewis. It was funny. Whatever it was, whatever's going on, we can roll with it. We can have a good. And when StreamYard is done buffering me, I can get back here and say, you know what? We had a good meeting. Lewis, you didn't get to talk too much about the mechanics of your ankle and what you're learning, which I think is really, really interesting. I'm going to tell you this. When you're 56, it's not going to be your ankle, dude. It's going to be that you're a half mile out and you got to get to a bathroom. And you're going to walk very, very gingerly, and you're going to be very careful about how your ankles are and everything else, because you're just like, yeah, I'm a little further away than I wanted to be. This happened to me this morning after I read your thing about walking with the ankles. I'm like, oh man, I got to get back. This is what happens to old people. Or you know what? You could be like two of my favorite people, my grandfather and someone who's like a third grandfather for me. Walking around, they fell and they died. And my generation is not going to solve this with exoskeletons. We're too lazy. We're spending it on AI right now. But your generation, Lewis, your generation, you need to invent exoskeletons. And you also got to finish off 3D printing of organs. That's just how you're going to live a long time.
I like your idea, but I think there's different ways to go about it. We can talk about it next time.
Yes.
But yeah, the spirit is there. I like it.
Yes. And I'm not even going to talk about
I like
I'm not going to talk about my topic. Kevin, what are you doing the rest of the week or till next Thursday? Are you going to come back next Thursday? Are you going to do this again? Are you the fourth guy?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk for the next 72 hours straight about whatever topic. Yeah, I'm just going to keep talking. I'm so sorry. I feel like I hijacked your guys.
No. This is what should happen. This is what should happen in a stand-up meeting. Look, I'm going to pitch stand-up meetings as a service. And you guys are going to come to me, or you're going to come to Kevin, or you're going to come to Soma, or you're going to come to Lewis. Lewis will tell you about walking and whatever else. And you're going to pay us $200, or we're going to show up for an hour, and we're going to fix your stand-up meeting. And then you're going to be like, wow, that was awesome. We had an awesome stand-up meeting. I know this person that I talk to every day now because they told me what they do in their personal life. They told me what they made for breakfast. I know this person. I trust this person. I built rapport with this person. I haven't done it for 15 years. You were magic. And then you're going to invite us back again. And you're probably going to spend $2,000 revamping your stand-up meetings over 2 months with one of us jokers sitting in and leading it for you. And then you're going to have like a company that actually can work together. And that's going to be amazing for you. So that's my pitch. And Kevin, you helped me make the point today. We don't have to stick to a format. We don't have to stick to minutes. We can do what's important to somebody, solve their problem that day. That's what we should do.
Well, I was happy to be here. Yeah, I'd love to join again at some point. But I'd like to hear Lou talk more and you talk more. And I got overly excited. Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
Apparently, I love a microphone and a camera. Apparently,
look. You know what I can do? I can just mute you. Let's see. Can I do it? I can ban you from the. I cannot mute. Why can't I mute you?
I mean, Kevin.
Yes, I did it. I muted you. Lou, what do you got to say? What do you got to say on closing here? What's going on with you?
Literally just happy to be here with you guys. Got excited about Kevin's topic a little bit. I understand that feeling, what he's talking about, the emotions kind of taking over, where you feel amazing one day and then the next you're like, I'm a piece of shit. Which, just happens to me regularly without coding. But no, that's a good thing to, be aware of, because there's going to be a time coming where I talked about this last time, there's going to be identity crisis, existential crisis. So we got to be starting to, work inside and see what's going on before it blows over. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, what I got to say, what I'll be working on the next few weeks is renaming Mojo Server. It's going to be the same product. It's going to have the same features and everything else, but I'm going to rename it to Mojo Ideate. And the idea is to give you an idea of what it does rather than it's Mojo Server, because there's 3 of us. And then, there's like all the people that are watching are like, what's a server about, dude? You sound like a programmer. I don't know. That can run on my computer. There's no way. So I'm going to stop that battle, rename it Mojo Ideate. What I would like you to do is not be an ID10T. I want you to be an ID8R. That's what I want you to be with AI. So I've already got the marketing brain going there.
I like that, but don't you think that the people that you're marketing to won't know what the word ideate means?
Yeah, I am gonna have to upgrade the vocabulary here, because we are all at a 3rd grade vocabulary. I will have to explain that for sure. You know what? I'll get the smart ones. How about that? Or if you know what the word ideate is, you'll be in a special club, and you'll look. People did not know what Word was before Microsoft Word bloated their screen and went clear across the screen with their menu.
It's really true. It's really true. Yeah. Well, yeah. I wish you luck. I hope your lessons in GIMP are similar to my lessons with the Arturio Microfreak, because I gotta say, I've just been nothing but perplexed. And I've been watching tutorials and learning, but I'm actually enjoying the process, because I can't just touch buttons until something works. And so it's actually been a good experience. So we'll have to chat about that more later too.
The best part of the pre-show is I told Kevin, you know what, we're not going to go on script. I actually knew this was going to happen, right? I just thought we would end up talking about music, because about 30 minutes before the show, Kevin's posting his Arturio Microfreak, Lewis is posting pictures of his thing, and then yesterday on Facebook and Instagram, I did a video of me with a guitar that I don't spend enough time with, just finding a cool riff with it. And the stand-up meeting thing is dead. We're doing music next. We're doing music Tuesday.
Love it.
I'll bring instruments.
I'm gonna get a Suno membership. I'll bring
I don't know what Soman plays. I know he's got more notes in his scale than the rest of us do. So that'll work well for him. Guys, thank you for watching. And by the way, thanks for the comments on LinkedIn. It was so good to stream live on LinkedIn. We got people who are really engaged with the conversation. So I appreciate you. Ebon, I hope I didn't mispronounce Ebon's name. And Sahil, appreciate you guys. Talk soon. Be good.
I think it's Ibone. All right, see you guys. Bye.
Ibone. All right, later, guys.
You guys stay here as I